Hi guys and welcome back to the Mighty Blues. My name is of course Cameron and welcome back today to another live stream. It is Monday, it's Tuesday now, early hours of Tuesday morning. It is the game review, Everton 0, Leicester City 2. I apologise about the timing of this live stream. I apologise about the organisation regarding this live stream. It has been quite a busy day for me today and unfortunately I wasn't able to sit down after work and do this live stream straight away, and I've literally just walked through my front door 10 minutes ago. Obviously Everton play Bournemouth tomorrow in the Carabao Cup. The game preview to that will again be a little bit different. That will be out tomorrow morning time, afternoon, probably early morning. It won't be very long. It won't be anywhere near as long as the usual previews. It won't be a live stream. It'll just be me having a little chat, a little video, talking about the Bournemouth game, giving my predictions, etc., and talking about why this game would be one that Everton should be targeting to win, not only to go further in the cup and, you know, head towards hopefully what is a good cut run. And I don't like saying that and I don't like using that phrase because for me a good cut run is winning the cup. It's absolutely no point getting to the final and losing and then sitting there the following season and saying, oh well, we had a good cut run last season. We didn't really have a good cut run, did we? Because a good cut run is winning the trophy. If you you get to the quarter final, you get to the semi final, it means absolutely nothing. But in order for us to do all of that, we obviously need to beat Bournemouth tomorrow. But as I said, that will all be in the game preview to the Bournemouth game tomorrow morning. Obviously, the Bournemouth game is tomorrow evening. So again, I apologise about that one. But unfortunately, with work and with other commitments, etc., given Everton have played on a Saturday and a Tuesday, it's been a little bit difficult to get all of the videos sorted in such a short period of time whilst trying to juggle everything else going on with everyday life. I'm not saying give me sympathy, I'm not saying feel sorry for me. All I'm saying is I apologise that this live stream is at 12:15 at night and the Bournemouth video will be in the morning of the game. Anyway, now that that's out the way, we are going to have a little chat about Saturday's dreadful defeat to Leicester City, and a little bit like that Bournemouth preview, this will probably be a little bit different to any of the game reviews I've done on the channel, certainly of recent. It'll probably be a little bit shorter and we'll probably focus a little bit more on specific details around the team at the moment as opposed to this game, just because with games like this, when I've done many a game review on this channel over the last 4 years. I've been doing this channel 4 years now, over 4 years now, nearly 4.5 years. And, as you will have known, during those 4.5 years, I've done many game reviews where we've sat down and we've spoken about Everton defeats, where we've sat down and we've spoken about Everton losing games of football. That isn't by any sense of the imagination new to me. It's not by any sense of the imagination, out of the norm for me to sit here and talk about a disappointing Everton defeat or a dreadful Everton performance or a disgrace of an afternoon, etc., etc. Those words have come out my mouth more times than I would have liked them to when I first created this channel in 2018. It's more the fact that, listen, this game was on Saturday. I know that we've got a game tomorrow against Bournemouth, as I mentioned, and then obviously we play Bournemouth away in the league on Saturday as well, our last game before the World Cup break. And I don't really want to be sitting here for 45 minutes, an hour, going over what was, as I've just said, an absolutely awful game of football, an absolutely awful afternoon, and an absolutely awful Everton performance. Because whenever we have performances like that and whenever we have results like that, I often like to just put them behind us and move forward and move on to the next game. It's a little bit more of a positive attitude than maybe what I had in the past, but especially given we play tomorrow, I see very little point in sitting here and moaning and screaming and shouting about a game that happened on Saturday when we've got a game tomorrow that ultimately, if we go out and win, we'll all be sitting here happy and we won't really be thinking too much about Saturday, especially if we go out and we beat them on Saturday in the league. Then obviously that would make up slightly for what was the game against Leicester City. But ultimately we do these reviews and part and parcel of the game is to sit down and to speak about them after it, and Saturday was absolutely abysmal from pretty much start to finish. I mean, other than that Alex Iwobi chance in the opening 10 minutes, I think Everton were timid. I think Everton were lacklustre. I think tactically the manager got it wrong, and I said a lot of what I wanted to say in the instant match reaction I did yesterday morning regarding this game. We done a half an hour long instant match reaction regarding this game and spoke quite in depth about how I felt this defeat falls on the manager, and ultimately I still to this day think it does as well. There's been a lot of, as I said, performances and results over the last 4 years, and specifically over the last 6 months of Frank Lampard's time at the football club, where I've sat here and I've blamed players, or I've blamed the board, or I've blamed, previous managers for the situation that we're in. I don't really think there's been a specific time where I've fully blamed Frank Lampard for the defeat. But I think Saturday was that time. And I'm not saying Saturday was the first time he's been fully to blame, but Saturday was the first time I think I really sat back and thought the manager's got it really, really wrong here. From the tactics to his decision-making in regards to the personnel on the pitch, in terms of Seamus Coleman playing, in terms of Damari Gray playing, to the system, when we went 1-0 down, to the lack of any real intensity, the lack of any real urgency, pushing Amadou Onana and Alex Iwobi further forward to deal with their front, to try and help out our front three when Amadou Onana is much better sitting deeper. Little things like that. Well, I say little things like that. They're not little things, are they? They're big things, but things like that I felt Frank Lampard got horrifically wrong on Saturday. And look, obviously there's bigger issues at the moment at the football club, and those bigger issues are, I think, a majority surrounding our forward line and our attackers, and ultimately whether or not we're going to have enough attacking power to be able to win enough games of football this season in the Premier League, and I don't think anybody can sit here and question that defensively we've improved massively. I don't think anybody can sit here and question that the introduction of Conor Cody and James Tarkowski to this team have improved us tenfold in terms of defensive capability and ability to again, maybe draw those games that you would typically lose, and maybe even be the difference in winning the games you typically wouldn't win, just by having two players in there of the quality of James Tarkowski and Conor Cody, who ultimately are leaders and battlers and 9 times out of 10 game winners on the pitch. We know we have, to an extent, improved our midfield. Whether or not it's still good enough, whether or not it's still full of exactly what we need, that is a completely different question for a completely different video. But we've certainly improved it. I mean, I think you could tell that on Saturday, when Abdoulaye Doucouré come onto the pitch, it was quite clear that even though Amadou Onana had an off game and Idrissa Gana Gueye had an off game, it was still very clear that, the pair of them were, much better than what Abdoulaye Doucouré is, or certainly showed himself to be on Saturday. Now, don't get me wrong, I don't think that was the best Abdoulaye Doucouré we've ever seen, and I think we can see much better from him, but he wasn't very good when he was asked to be on Saturday. Our biggest issue is most certainly the forward line. Not only the lack of firepower, not only the lack of quality, not only the lack of ability in there, but for me, the decisions that were made in the summer regarding the forward line are a little bit worrying. I give a lot of credit to Kevin Thelwell and Frank Lampard and the recruitment team in the summer, for their purchases of Conor Cody, James Tarkowski, obviously Amadou Onana, even bringing Ghana back. There was a lot of good moves that the Everton recruitment team made in the summer that deserved to be credited, that deserved to be spoken about. But their inability to find a replacement to Richarlison has got to go down as a failure. And ultimately, I'm not really sure what they were thinking with the signings of Dwight McNeil and Neil Maupay. Now, listen, both players, I think, are decent Premier League level players, and maybe that's the market Everton were looking in. Decent Premier League level players. The reality is for £20 million that we spent on Dwight McNeil, I think we could have gotten better. I think we could have gotten somebody that would contribute a lot more in terms of goals and assists. And for the money we spent on Neil Maupay, I just don't understand the Neil Maupay signing whatsoever. If you're bringing Neil Maupay into this Everton team, you're bringing him into this Everton team on the understanding that he is the complete opposite to Dominic Calvert-Lewin, which isn't necessarily the worst thing because that means you've got a different option. And that was what I felt was the plan to bring Neil Maupay. It was the reason behind bringing Neil Maupay into Everton, and that's why I had no issue with it, and that's why I publicly backed it when the transfer was made, because I thought, right, okay, this gives us another option. This allows us to play a certain way with Dominic Calvert-Lewin on the pitch, but then if it's not working, be able to switch it up and play a different way with Neil Maupay on the pitch, because they're two completely different strikers who offer you two completely different ways of leading the line. But that isn't what's happening. What's happening is Neil Maupay is being asked to come on and directly replace Dominic Calvert-Lewin in a like-for-like move, if you like. And Neil Maupay isn't a like-for-like replacement for Dominic Calvert-Lewin. So when you're bringing off a 6'4", 6'5" centre-forward who's dominant in the air, who wins balls in the air, who can get at defenders, and your tactic and your plan is to lump the ball up to him, hope that he has a good game and can knock it down or can control it or can take it down and play players in, and you're replacing him with a striker who's nowhere near as tall as him, who's never going to be able to do that role, and you're not changing your plan, that's where the real issue is. And that's where, for me, the question marks start to come, because that's when I think, well, if that was going to be the case, if we were never going to change the way we play or the style or the system or whatever, then why did we go out and buy Neil Maupay? Why didn't we go out and buy another 6'3", 6'4" centre forward who was like for like to Dominic Calvert-Lewin and could just step in and do exactly what Dom does? Why did we buy somebody that offers us something a little bit different and then not utilise him for what he offers us? Now, I'm not saying Neil Maupay is unbelievable or he's exceptional, or, if you play to his strengths, he'd be like Lionel Messi. But if you play to his strengths, then we can all sit here and say, right, okay, that's us playing to his strengths. This is what he is. This is how good he is. He's maybe not good enough, or he's all right, he's capable. But when you're not playing to his strengths, and when you're asking him to do a job that is, let's be perfectly honest, impossible for him to do, then how can any of us really sit here and go, oh, Neil Maupay's absolutely shite, he's useless, and why did we bring him in, when the way in which Frank Lampard has got this Everton team playing around Neil Maupay was never going to work. Never going to work. It doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense for me, and I think we saw that on show on Saturday. I think we saw Frank Lampard's maybe loyalties get ahead of him a little bit on Saturday. I think we saw nostalgia get a little bit too much, not get a little bit too much, but get ahead of Frank Lampard on Saturday with the Seamus Coleman thing. I said it before the game, I said it during the game, and I've said it after the game. Seamus Coleman should not have been playing on Saturday. Now, I had a comment on the Instant Match Reaction saying, but what if Nathan Patterson wasn't fully fit, Cam? That's fine. That's absolutely fine. But Frank Lampard come out the day before the game and said Nathan Patterson is completely fully fit. He's available, he's fit, he's ready, and it's my decision as to whether or not I decide to play him. So, if that's the case, then why is he not playing? Because he's Everton's number one right back. The Blues says, Camo, what our plan wasn't to lump it to Maupay. Our plan was to try and play football. That's fine. Maybe there was times when we were trying to play football, but I witnessed 4, 5, 6 times that the ball was lumped up in Neil Maupay's direction and it comes straight back at us. As I said, Nathan Patterson is Everton's number one right back. Should be playing week in, week out when fit. I understand he'd had an injury, and I understand last week he come off the bench because it was his first week back. Fine, I get that. That's fine. He's fit now, he's available, and he was ready. So he should have started that game without a shadow of a doubt. And do you know what bugs me? Nathan Patterson will play tomorrow, and Nathan Patterson will play on Saturday. And Frank Lampard will say, well, he wasn't ready to play against Leicester. Well, he wasn't ready. But you literally come out on Friday and said he was ready to play. If you come out on Friday and said, listen, he's not ready, or we don't know whether he's ready, we'll make that decision on tomorrow, and then he doesn't start, then we can't say anything, because you've literally come out and said, sorry, there's a fly in my room. You've literally come out and said, we don't know whether he's ready, and then it's come out that he's not ready. Fine. But don't come out and say he's ready, not start him, and then because your decision hasn't worked, then come out and say, oh, well, he wasn't ready. It's just, it screams of Frank making a decision, which was to stick with Seamus Coleman because of his loyalties and because he hasn't been horrific recently, and it going wrong because Seamus wasn't able to keep up with the play. But look, there were many things that went wrong ultimately on Saturday. As I said, I think the decision to push Amadou Onana up to a little bit of a further forward role didn't make any sense. Playing Amadou Onana in the first place didn't make any sense, considering we had the report after the game that he'd gone off with an ankle injury, which actually he'd sustained in training the day before. So why he started that game was beyond me, because he was always going to be, he was always going to be slow. He was always going to be a little bit sheepish because he'd had an injury. Again, another bad decision by the manager. But we allowed Leicester City to control the game. We allowed their better players in James Maddison and Youri Tielemans all of the time in the world, all of the space in the world, and all of the room to do whatever they wanted with the ball. And when you allow genuine quality, to do that, then you will be punished for it. And Leicester are a team that have struggled this season. Leicester are a team that, okay, I've had an upturn in form recently, but before that, I'd had an absolutely woeful start to the season. But there's still a team with capable players. There's still a team with players that can hurt you. There's still a team with players that will give you a problem if you allow them, to do that. And we did. We did do that. Obviously, we had the chance in early on in the first half to go 1-0 up. And we had a couple of chances in the game. We had a couple of half chances. Onana had a header. Dominic Calvert-Lewin had one or two that, we should have done much better with. But the Iwobi chance is gold. And if the Iwobi chance goes in, then it's a different game. And listen, some people will have a more positive outlook on this game than me. Some people will say, well, if Iwobi scores, then their heads drop and it's a completely different game. And the outcome's a bit different. And, we're sitting here having a different conversation. And that's fine. Reality is Iwobi didn't score. Iwobi put it wide. Should he have scored? Absolutely, for me. He absolutely should have scored, but he didn't. He put it wide, and in doing that, we ultimately at that point then had to pick our heads up. We had to go again, and we didn't from that point on. Again, even when Iwobi had that chance in the first 5 minutes, you know what, listen, I don't want to say Leicester were on top, because it was 5 minutes into the game, and I think it'd be a bit silly for me to sit here and suggest that anybody was on top. But Leicester certainly had started the game much better. Leicester had certainly started the game on the front foot. They were getting at us, they were holding the ball, they were keeping possession, and even in that first 5 minutes, it didn't really look like we were up for it. And we should have been, because as I said, they've had an upturn in form recently, and that's fine, but this is a Leicester team that have showed numerous times this season that they can be beaten, and they can be beaten heavily if you get at them, and if you ultimately exploit their weaknesses, which at the moment are their defence and their goalkeeper. And we didn't do that. We sat off them, we had a chance, we missed it. And for the rest of the game, as I said, I don't want to sit here and ramble and talk about individual incidents on the 50th minute or the 60th minute, because the reality is, firstly, as I said at the start of the video, the game's over now and we should look forward to tomorrow, and hopefully we'll go out and put a better performance in tomorrow and win that game. But also, after that chance, and, okay, we had one or two other half chances, as I said, Onana has a header. I think Dominic Calvert-Lewin had a couple of half chances as well. Leicester completely controlled the game. And whilst their opening goal was an absolute beaut of a strike, it was an awful goal defensively to concede. What Seamus Coleman is doing is beyond me, and what Conor Cody is doing is beyond me. But it wasn't like we could sit here and say, oh, what a worldie, that was completely against the run of play. Great goal, that, pick your heads up and go again. It was always coming. It was always coming. There was only ever going to be one team that scored first in that game, and it was Leicester City. They were on top for the first minute to the last minute. And that's really, really disappointing when you think that this isn't Man City or Chelsea or Arsenal or Tottenham. This is a team that 5-6 weeks ago couldn't buy a point, couldn't win a point in a raffle. Again, I'm not saying that they've not got quality. I'm not saying that gives us a divine right to turn up and wipe the floor with them. Of course it doesn't. But we should have given them more to think about. We should have put them under more pressure. We should have given them more trouble than what we actually did. And we didn't do any of that. We just completely allowed them to do what they wanted. We allowed the likes of Maddison and Tielemans to dictate the game. And as I said, although the goal was an absolute beaut of a finish, their first goal, it was a goal that we all expected to happen and we all saw coming. Everybody was off the pace, as I said, other than Vitaly Mykolenko, who I thought was man of the match. Jordan Pickford's passing and distribution was atrocious. The midfield were absent, as I said. Onana was jogging around at this point, probably because he'd sprained his ankle. Garner was awful. Iwobi wasn't really involved. The front three were toothless. The two centre-halves were decent, but, you know, again, weren't as good as what they have been. Seamus Coleman was getting ran ragged left, right and centre. It was just a really lacklustre performance, and that sort of fed into, you know, I don't want to say a toxic atmosphere because I think that would be going a bit too far, but, you know, a not a happy atmosphere at Goodison, you know, and Leicester fed off that and built off that, and ultimately, I've said it before and I'll say it again, I've never really been a massive fan of this counter-attacking sort of style of playing football. And listen, if you're one of the best teams in the world, it works and it's great and you're amazing. But naturally with football and in football, if you give a team possession, especially a team that are down a little bit and are struggling a bit and maybe haven't had the greatest start to the season, if you give a team the ball and you give a team possession and you allow their one or two quality players to get on the ball and spray passes and get in the right areas and create chances, that team will build and build and build and build in confidence. Everton haven't got the quality to play that way for me. Everton haven't got the ruthlessness. We haven't got the you know, the that final third. We haven't got that quality and that, you know, killer instinct and that magic in the final third to be able to play like that, to make other teams think, actually, do you know what? We can't get too ahead of ourselves here because if they hit us on the counter-attack, we could be bollocked. Teams know now. Well, if Everton hit us on the counter-attack, they've got Damari Gray, who's just going to run it into a corner, try and do 7 step-overs and get the ball taken off him. Or they've got Gordon, who's going to throw himself on the floor and, you know, get booked for diving. Or they've got Dominic Calvert-Lewin, who can't do it all on his own. Or they've got Dwight McNeil, who's not very fast, so just stick someone who's fast on him. We haven't got a player where teams will look at and go, we've got to be a bit cautious that if they hit us on the counter-attack here because that lad could rip us to shreds. And that's why when you give teams the ball and you allow teams to play and you allow teams to, you know, constantly be in control of possession and get at you and, you know, chip away at you, when they grow in confidence, we drop in confidence and we start to think, oh shit, we're making more mistakes, or we're losing the ball more, or we're giving more chances away. And it just doesn't work. And to be fair, the Blues says we can't play possession football. Cam, look what happened. We can't really do that either because the passing isn't good enough or the movement isn't good enough. The movement on Saturday, this is one thing I really noticed on Saturday. The movement was absolutely embarrassing. It was embarrassing on Saturday. The amount of players I saw just standing still, completely standing still, not willing to bust a bollock, not willing to run that extra 10 yards, not willing to, you know, not willing to get forward and ultimately help their teammates out or have any sort of involvement in the game whatsoever. It was really, really embarrassing, the movement on Saturday. It really, really was. And it's not good enough. It's simply not good enough for Everton Football Club. It's not good enough for players to be standing around and just going, yeah, do you know what? I'm not asked. I haven't got the ball, so I'm just going to wait here. It was nonsense. And as I said, Leicester then went on, scored the first goal, which was always coming, continued to control the game. Everton never really looked to push for an equaliser. We brought a couple of subs on. James Garner come on and done all right. Every other sub, Takore, Gordon, Mopey, even Patterson to an extent, completely irrelevant to the game of football. And then as we were, you know, listen, I want to say pushing for an equaliser, but by that I mean we had a few players forward. They hit us on the counter-attack. Harvey Barnes gets into a good position and he fires it beyond Jordan Pickford and it's completely game over. Now, yes, we had one or two half chances in between that. But, you know, it was, let's be honest, there were no chances that you looked at and you went, oh my God, that's a sitter, other than Iwobi's in the first half. The Blues is exactly, mate. That's why we try and play a counter-attacking football. I get that, but we haven't got the quality to play counter-attacking football. We tried to play counter-attacking football against Fulham, and Dominic Calvert-Lewin was offside about 16 times. And we actually scored against Fulham, and Dom was offside in a situation where he never should have been offside. So, listen, I don't think anybody could argue that our biggest issue at the moment and our biggest problem is in the attack. Our biggest problem is that we simply have not got a forward line that will worry many teams, and we haven't got a forward line that we can sit here and we can be confident going into a game of football that will come out with a result. Now, it will be interesting to see what happens tomorrow in the cup game. By the way, if you're just joining us, our preview to that game will be out tomorrow morning. I know the game's tomorrow. I apologise. I've had a busy day, and obviously it's been quite a quick turnover, so we'll get a little preview out in the morning. It'll be a video, it won't be a live stream, but we'll talk about the game and what changes Frank may make. I'm sure we'll see a lot of players that we haven't seen recently playing in that game. Maybe a different system, maybe a different formation, who knows. We'll definitely see changes because we know a couple of players picked up injuries on Saturday. But yeah, it was really, really disappointing. The Blues says, wouldn't you rather a point than get beat and play football? Of course I would, mate, but we didn't get a point the other day, and we've had games where we've played the way we did yesterday, on Saturday, and not got a point. If you get a point, then absolutely sound, and I appreciate that. And look, I'm a fan of Frank Lampard, and if you've watched this channel for a long time, you will know I'm a fan of Frank Lampard. You will know I really like Frank Lampard, and I think as a fan base we should all get behind him. I really, really do. The reality is, he got it wrong on Saturday. He got it wrong in multiple reasons. And I don't think many people could disagree with that, to be honest. The golfer says, what's needed in January, Cam? A creative midfielder, somebody that you look at and you think he could change the game today, he could be the difference, and a winger who's capable of scoring goals and getting assists. At the moment, our wingers just simply have no output. It's not like they haven't got enough output, they've got no output whatsoever. So they're the main priority for me, a goal scoring winger, maybe another striker, and a creative midfielder, because there's nobody in that midfield. Iwobi, okay, has had a great season and has got a few assists, etc., but there's nobody that you look at and you go, he's gonna do it. I remember when James was here, and again, I'm not saying go out and buy James, and I'm not saying that James was perfect, because James was far from perfect. He was on a lot of money, he was constantly injured, etc. I'm not saying that, but I remember when James was here, every single time he was on that pitch, you had that feeling that he could make something happen. You had that feeling of, well, if he's on the pitch, we can still get something out of this game, because he's a magician. He can make something happen with the click of his fingers. We haven't got that. We simply haven't got that at the moment. Let's get into some of the live comments then. Hey guys, says EFC Graphic. Cam says, Wonderlust, how are we? Cam says, Everton bids, I'm not too bad. If you are enjoying, by the way, please hit that like button. If you are new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe as well. I've lost a few subscribers recently. That's probably my fault because of the lack of content. I've been really, really busy. Personal life's been a bit mad recently. So I apologise about that one. If we could hit that subscribe button, if you are new, it would mean a great, great deal to me. Share the videos as well. Share the streams. Let's get as many people involved as we can. Alright, Cam. Says Philip, Everton aren't we up the top? He says Everton vids, let's double stuff the cherries. Philip says, you were the first fan channel I subbed to. 4 years have flown past. Thank you very much, my mate. I appreciate that. They very, very certainly have flown past. There's no doubt about that. It feels like only yesterday I started this channel, and obviously I appreciate all of the support during that time from everybody as well as yourself, Phil. That'll feel like a recovery, says Wonderlust. Cam, seeing you a couple of weeks ago by the Albert Dot by Tesco. Thank you very much, Jay. Yeah, I remember, mate. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I had a real bad feeling about Gay back. I'm still impressed by his return, says Philip. Interesting. The Blue says, what's up, Cam? Hope you're good, mate. I'm good, mate. This game showed we aren't capable of controlling possession unless the other team stand off like Palace did. Yeah, probably a good point, to be fair. Probably a good point. Palace were very standoffish and Palace were very poor on that day, and it allowed us to control the pace of the game and control the tempo with the game. Leicester didn't allow us to do that, but ultimately Leicester have probably got better players in terms of individual quality. And by that I mean I don't think Palace have got a player as good as Yuri Tielemans, and I don't think they've got a player as good as James Maddison. But I just, again, I just think we could have done a lot more. And look, the positive Evertonians amongst us will say, well, if Iwobi's chance goes in, it's a completely different game and we're having a different conversation. But the reality is we were really, really poor on Saturday, and that performance can't happen again. I suppose the biggest positive to take out of it is that we've got one more Premier League game before we go into the World Cup. We then don't play till Boxing Day, and Boxing Day is a week away from the January transfer window opening. So, it's not that far before we can start making changes to this team, and we need to make changes to this team, because I'm seriously worried that the end of this season may be similar to the end of last season if we don't inject some goals and some quality into this forward line. We've got the solidity at the back. We've got a much better, more athletic midfield, but our forward line is atrocious at the moment. Atrocious. Anyway, I am going to leave it there. I appreciate that this was a little bit shorter and a little bit different to the usual game review and not as in-depth and packed in. But it's 1:45. I'm in work at 8 o'clock, and we've got to get the game preview out in the morning to the Bournemouth game tomorrow. And then obviously tomorrow night we'll have the instant match reaction and the play rating. So loads of content, just a little bit rushed at the moment because Everton have got a cup game the other side of the country on a Tuesday, which is great. If you have enjoyed this one, please do hit that like button. It does only take a second. If you are new to the channel, as I said, don't forget to subscribe. Don't forget to let me know your thoughts in the YouTube comments if you're watching as a YouTube video. And if you've watched live, big thank you all for watching. I appreciate it. The Blues says, peace out, mate. Cheers, says Philip. Nice one, my mate. Thank you all for all of the support. It means a lot to me. Big thank you all for watching. Leave a like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you're new. And we'll see you later.